Learning through play starts with Lego Duplo. With Lego Duplo, toddlers can develop real-life skills while having fun with colorful bricks made just for them. Large, easy to grip, and safe to explore. When children express themselves with Lego Duplo, they build patience, problem-solving, and empathy. See your child learn perseverance and self-expression with everything they imagine and create. Visit lego.com/preschool to learn more.
The following is a Red Apple Podcast Network presentation.
They say this is a big rich town. I just come from the poet's part. Bright light, city life, I gotta make it.
Welcome to Dominic Carter's podcast. This is Dominic Carter's City Hall. Now, here's Dominic Carter.
Dominic Carter, Red Apple Podcast, Talk Radio 77 WABC. You can listen to me live on the radio Monday through Friday, midnight to 1 a.m., midnight to 1 a.m. Just a month into her administration, the legislature in Albany is flexing, telling New York Governor Kathy Hochul that they run the state and not her. This is my podcast. Let's go. So, folks, a recent survey shows New York Governor Kathy Hochul with her highest approval rating to date at 56% since becoming the first woman elected governor in New York. But Hochul is facing trouble. On one hand, crime is out of control, and we, the public, are demanding bail reform to lock up these animals, lock up these criminals, but the legislature is not going along with the initiative, thus far refusing to budge. In fact, the legislature is playing hardball with Hochul, their fellow Democrat, in a full public way. Hochul wants Judge Hector LaSalle as the new chief of the state's highest court, and this has never been done before. Fellow Democrats said no. In fact, Assembly Democrats went out of their way to stack a panel with progressives to make sure LaSalle would not receive a vote before the full chamber. With us on the podcast, political consultant Hank Schinkopf. Thank you for appearing.
How you doing, Dominic?
I'm doing well, thank you. And so the headline, the bullet line, if you will, New York Democrats deny Hector LaSalle's nomination to be the state's top judge after he defends his record during the confirmation hearing. So explain, Mr. Schinkopf, why is this important, and is this big trouble for Governor Hochul?
It is very big trouble for Governor Hochul, and it's very big trouble for the state. This is a battle about the progressives on one side and the leadership of the chambers, both chambers of the legislature, not wanting to take them on. And it is often what happens, Dominic, when you have one-party control. You tend to have factionalism, and that's what the so-called progressives are. They're factional. They're a faction. They're like the Reformed Democrats were to the regular Democrats 50 years ago. So this chaos is going to act itself out, and now the leaders of the legislature are going to be very paralyzed because they're going to worry about losing their sinecures, the jobs that they got, which are very good because the progressives have now grown, and the rejection of the LaSalle nomination has given the progressives, frankly, much more power that they shouldn't have.
But Hank Schinkopf, this has been a stacked deck on Judge LaSalle from the beginning. The progressives adding, 3 members to this committee to make sure they had to vote to sail his nomination?
Well, why have democracy when you can fix it? There's no difference between that fix and the fix that anybody else would do. I mean, what the beautiful thing about progressives and reformers is that the reforms always tend to have an upper-class bias. And here's a case where a qualified Latino was told to take a hike by a bunch of people who think they know better than everybody else. They did the same thing to Herman Badillo in 1969 and 73 when he ran for mayor. They've done the same thing to other Latinos. This is the beginning of the end of Latinos in the Democratic Party in New York State. And you can rest assured that come 2 years down the road or a year down the road from now, when we have state senate elections in locations where you have Latinos, they're going to remember this and they're going to be reminded of it.
So it is your opinion, Hank Schinkopf, the Latino community will not take too well to this?
Well, I don't think they're going to take too well to it. I don't think. What the other thing is, I had a conversation with someone I know for many, many decades who's a reformer and a great progressive, and I said, "You're all upset about Judge LaSalle. Well, what are you going to do when the rest of the state clears out? Because it's not that people are going to say, I'm leaving because Judge LaSalle was rejected. What they're going to say is, I'm leaving because something happened that's crazy. That a qualified guy that people didn't agree with politically on some particular cases should be tossed out the window rather than look at his entire record."
It is nuts, and it sounds like it was a power play, that the progressives were telling the governor, no, Madam Governor, we run this state. Is that accurate?
Well, it's worse than that. This is an attempt to undo once and for all the imperial governorship or the strong governor of an Andrew Cuomo and Elliot Spitzer. And David Patterson said he wasn't there long enough to exert the kind of power needed, but certainly Spitzer, certainly Cuomo, certainly Pataki, to undo that once and for all, and to have the legislature take control of the entire state. And the legislature now would be dominated by so-called progressives. This is a warning to Carl Hastie that in his own chamber, the progressives have now been empowered. There are likely to be more of them, and he could be next on the chopping block.
Interesting. So what I also find interesting about this, and folks, we are talking about the fact that New York Democrats up in Albany denied Judge Hector LaSalle his nomination put up by Governor Hochul to be the state's top judge. And Democrats did this to a fellow Democratic governor, Hank Schinkopf, political consultant. What does that say, Hank? I mean, Democrats doing in Democrats now.
Imagine this. The best pasta sauce you have ever tasted sits abandoned on a plate. Wasted sauce. That is a tragedy. If only you had used Barilla al Bronzo pasta. Its bronze-cut texture holds your sauce and scoops up every last drop. The Italians call that scarpetta. Capture sauce the Italian way. Barilla al Bronzo. Click or tap the banner to find out more.
Well, it doesn't matter because they're really not interested in party. They're interested in faction. Kathy Hochul is going to get even. Why? Because she's from Buffalo. She was doing politics in a more tough place than most of these guys have ever had, the guys, in their lives. We're talking about people who haven't put a callus on their hands overall, who have no clue what it means to sweat, struggle, or go through any crisis. That's what we're talking about is now running our politics. They don't like blue-collar white people, men, and they really don't like anybody that disagrees with them, and they think they can colonize people. That's their basic operating style. That's who we're dealing with. You really believe that people are going to say, oh, please, do some more to me. Raise my taxes. Make it impossible for me to live. Tell me that I don't need police protection. Tell me that we can have people urinating and defecating on the streets, and that's okay. Do you think they're going to like that?
No, I don't.
That's where we're going. That's where we're going.
And Hank Schinkopf, I have to be honest with you. You and I are always straight with each other. These far-left Democrats are scaring the hell out of me in terms of their policies across the country. And the question is, what's next?
They're dangerous people because they don't understand what it means when let me tell you, someone's going to have to pay the price for all this. Who's going to pay for it? Not just financially. The idiocy of the 70s was that when we had the last fiscal crisis of consequence, was that somehow everybody would have to stay in New York and they'd be more than happy to stay here and pay for whatever the Democrats and the lefties wanted to do. They're not going to. This Hector LaSalle thing is dynamite because it begins to shear off portions of the population that won't take it anymore. They won't know it's about LaSalle. The Latinos will. People don't look at voting numbers. If you look at Trump's numbers in the 2016 election, was that right? Yeah. What you saw was significant numbers based upon voter turnout, a population in the South Bronx voting for Trump. What do people think? This is an aberration? The largest growing group on Long Island, right? Probably Latinos of all kinds. What did they do? Did they vote for Democrats this past fall? No, they did not. What's the message here? The message is we are about to be plagued by a group of people who think that they can solve all the problems because they're smarter than the rest of us. And I met those guys 40 years ago, or more when I first started my career. I thought they were elitists then. I thought they didn't understand black people or working people at all, and I still feel the same way. Nothing's changed. The only difference is now we have a new collection of them. They're going to turn the place into what we don't want it to be.
The state Senate has never rejected a governor's pick for chief judge since the current nomination system has been in place since the 1970s. Does that say it all?
It says that we should go back to electing judges and tell the politicians to get their hands off our court system. And it should also tell you that these guys think they're the law. Well, if they're the law, let them go in the streets and do what the cops want to do but can't do, because bail reform says to a cop, why bother? The guy will be back on the street with a gun, if it was a gun collar, in the next day or so.
Yeah, I close this way, Hank Schinkopf. If Governor Hochul called you this morning and hired you, how would you advise her to proceed with this process?
Shear off New York City suburbs. Shear off 30% or 40% of Queens, maybe 50% of Queens. Shear off 20% or 25% of Brooklyn, and about 5% of the Bronx. Create a constituency out of that. Create a pact with the more conservative parts of the state and run like hell, because you're never going to win the enemy over. The enemy's decided that the enemy is smarter than the rest of us and wants us to pay for it. I'd also tell her to get a hold of the budget. And there finds a lot of places in New York State where there won't be any new roads built by her, whatever it's called, the Highway Department or Department of Transportation. That's one of the things I would do right away.
I have to ask you this as I wrap this up. Was it a mistake for the governor to sign off so early on the pay raises for the legislature? Should she have held that back to have something to bargain with?
It told you that she is a person of her word, and she expected a fair deal. What she got was an unfair deal, and she got a power play. Now, this battle may turn itself up in the budget crisis, but in order for her to be in the budget that's coming, and we're going to have some real financial problems in the state and the city, this is going to be ultimately about who wins the argument. Do the people who want to maintain some sense of control win the argument, or do the people who want ideology to influence every decision we make, are they going to control it? That's the battle, so let's see what happens.
And so the issue is, does Governor Hochul go to court over her selection of Judge Hector LaSalle? That wraps up this episode. We want to thank you folks for joining us. You can catch me on 77 WABC weeknights, midnight to 1 a.m., midnight to 1 a.m. Go check out the Dominic Carter merchandise at the 77 WABC store. From Dominic Carter t-shirts to hats and much more, go to WABCRadiostore.com. Dominic Carter, Red Apple Podcasts, Talk Radio 77 WABC.
Dominic Carter Socials on Twitter at Dominic TV and Facebook and Instagram. Dominic Carter TV. Email at dominic.carter@wabcradio.com. Until the next episode, be well. And as Dominic always says, stay positive. The glass is always half full, never half empty. Dominic Carter City Hall.